Hey guys, Jack here, and today I wanted to share with you my review and impressions of Battlefield 3 Endgame on the PlayStation 3. As some of you may know, if you've got Premium you can already play Endgame on the PS3, and a couple of days ago when it was released I jumped on there straight away, played the hell out of it and recorded it all for you guys. Obviously this is new content for BF3, we get 4 new maps, 3 new vehicles and 2 new game modes, Air Superiority and Capture the Flag. I've played quite a bit of Endgame in the last few days, including the new game mode, so I think I can give you guys a good impression of what it's like on the PS3. I'm going to start off with Air Superiority. Now, it's a very basic game mode to understand. 12v12 jets, 3 capture points in the sky, whichever team runs out of tickets first loses. Simple. You can't get out of your jet. If you try, it just says that your ejector seat's malfunctioned. So if you get disabled, unless you're running the extinguisher perk, you're going down with your ship. Definitely no Renzooks here. This game mode plays out very frantically, and you're unlikely to stay in the air long unless you're a very skilled pilot. Most people are running heat seekers, so as soon as you pop your ECM or flares, there's going to be someone else locking onto you straight away. So you're probably going to get hit unless you manage to dodge the missiles with some slick moves. Basically, what I'm saying is that you're going to die a lot in this game mode, especially if you try and play the objective all the time and fly around the blimps, which are the capture points, because there's an awful lot of bad luck deaths and collisions with enemies and even teammates, simply because there's so many big chunks of metal in the sky. There's also a pterodactyl flying around. Yeah, I couldn't make that up, could I? And I discovered this when I saw it and I thought it was an enemy jet, so I went for it. I was like, right, I'm going to get you. And I couldn't figure out why my heat seekers weren't locking onto it. I got a bit close and I was like, motherfudger, that's a pterodactyl. Dinosaurs. Lol. Oh yeah, there's also some snowmen, a T-Rex skull, and this spaceship drone thingy with the EU logo from Battlefield 2142 on the side. What does it mean? I had a bit of fun with Air Superiority, I guess, and it's a good place for inexperienced pilots to practice, but after 10 minutes or so of flying around it just gets a bit boring and turns into team deathmatch in the sky, and you just want it to end when you've collided with the 8th person in a row. It's a neat little addition to the game, and the guys that are really good in jets are going to love it, but it's not something that I'll play much of, I think, because to me, the enjoyable thing about jets in Battlefield 3 is the variety you get in, say, a Conquest game. So you might take out a tank with the rocket pods and then you realise that there's a guy on your 6, so you lose him and have a little dogfight outside the map. Then you go back in, take out an attack helicopter or level a building. It's that variety that makes jets in Battlefield 3 engaging and entertaining, but you just don't really get that in Air Superiority. It's just a bit meh. If I had any tips on jet loadouts for this game mode, I'd say beam scanning, extinguisher and heat seekers is probably the best to go with. You don't really need air radar in my opinion because there's just so many jets in the sky and you don't really get those 1v1 dogfights which air radar is actually useful for. I'd take extinguisher because I've found in this game mode if someone disables you with a heat seeker, they're probably just going to leave you alone and go after another target. So once they've gone away you can pop extinguisher and take revenge. As I mentioned earlier, I find that flares and ECM are useless because there's just so many people trying to lock onto you at the same time and they become pointless. Heat seekers are a must in this game mode and will net you many kills. They're quite good from a distance as well, and I find that rocket pods are quite hard to hit with unless the enemy jet is flying very slowly in front of you. On PC, if I play this, I'll definitely be using my main gun more, but I find the controller quite hard to use and to stay on target with, so heat seekers are actually very useful to me on the PS3. Right. So on to capture the flag now. Both teams have a flag and the objective is to capture the other team's flag. Now the only way to capture it is if your flag is in your base, so you've got to have players attacking and defending to ensure victory. The first team to capture 3 flags wins the game, or whoever has the most caps after the time runs down is the winner. First off, the bikes are awesome and very useful in CTF. They're crazy fast in endgame and definitely a lot of fun. Plus, they leave me wishing that they actually had these in the other BF3 vanilla or Armoured Kill Conquest maps. Now, although Endgame has only been out a couple of days, I have to say that I enjoy the new bikes immensely, and they've definitely made more of an impact on me than the Quad ATVs did. I foresee some epic bike videos on the horizon when the PC version is released. So how does CTF play out on the PS3? Well, for the most part it's pretty fun when you're playing with mates on voice comms, and it can get pretty hectic around the cap points or when one team gets the flag on a bike and goes speeding off, so the whole team just zones in and chases them. I've definitely had some cool experiences with CTF and I can't wait to try this mode out on the PC. However, I've found a couple of problems that I'm not really a fan of. Number one, most players are super defensive and this leads to some very boring drawn out games. I can guarantee you that 90% of the enemy team will be camping their flag, and also that both flags are going to be covered in C4, claymores and mines. Occasionally some poor soul will go for the flag, it's probably me, pick it up, but they're not going to make it because they won't have much support from their own team because they're too busy making smiley faces back at base. I've also seen a scenario where both teams had the opposite team's flag and just camped out in a tank at their home base and neither could be killed. It's pretty boring. Number two, I think it's way too easy to spawn camp on these maps and you better get used to being spawn killed. Most of the flag cap points are surrounded by buildings, so you can go on top of them or in and out of them, or there's lots of crates around, so there's loads of places where you can camp or stick a spawn beacon down to continually annoy the enemy team at their spawn. This can get very frustrating at times, and if you don't clear out those buildings around your spawn, you're never going to get a successful flag cap. Number three, to my knowledge you can't drop the flag once you've picked it up unless you get killed, and there's been a few occasions where I've got the enemy flag at our base and I want to cap it, but I can't because the enemy have got our flag. So I want to go and try and get it because no one else is doing it. They're probably busy seeing how many mines they can pile up on top of each other at the base. The record was 10. But if I get killed trying to get our flag back, I'm just going to give them their flag back really easily and they'll score. Now I wish I could drop it in the base or give it to someone else to look after whilst I go on a little mission. Overall though, I feel like CTF is an okay addition to the game. It can be pretty fun at times when there's a lot going on, and if you had two full teams in an organised game going up against each other, it could be quite an exciting experience. I just don't think it works amazingly well in public play sometimes due to how defensive most players are. I'm glad to say though that the Rush versions of the maps are very good, and I'm definitely enjoying the new maps on Rush the most. I'm a big fan of Rush, so I always welcome new maps, and they go along with the linear style of all the levels in Endgame. And the maps themselves look great with the Four Seasons theme, especially Operation Riverside, and they all seem to give off a big Bad Company 2 vibe. There's just something about them that shouts out Bad Company 2, like don't forget me please, I was Bad Company 2, I was awesome. Conquest is the standard fare with the addition of the dropship, and I've enjoyed racing from flag to flag on the motorbikes. It just feels very empty a lot of the time on PS3 because the maps are quite large, and being limited to 24 players, you only ever seem to run into one or two guys at capture points. In conclusion, I have to say that whilst it's mostly fun, at the same time I'm not blown away by Endgame on PS3 as a whole. It's okay and it offers some fresh ideas and gameplay, but it definitely hasn't had the same effect on me that Aftermath or Back to Karkin did. But I think partly that's because all the time I'm playing it, I'm sat there wishing it was March the 12th and I could play it on PC. Now, I don't want to come across sounding like a PC Master Race elitist because I'm not that at all. I own both an Xbox and a PS3 and they've got some great exclusive games that I love to play. But oh man, Battlefield 3 is a completely different game on console than it is on PC, and I find it very hard to enjoy sometimes. I think I've been spoilt by playing Battlefield 3 on the PC, and I genuinely feel sorry for the console guys that have never experienced this game on PC with high frame rates, more players per server, mouse and keyboard controls. And although I said some of the maps look gorgeous and they play out well, Operation Riverside in particular feels like it's running at 20 frames per second, making it impossible to enjoy for me. I also feel bad for DICE as well because they're extremely limited by the performance of 9-year-old hardware. And if I were a games designer, I wouldn't be happy releasing a map that had that bad performance. Ultimately, Endgame is a lot of new content for a first-person shooter that's nearly 17 months old. And just think about that for a second. There's not many AAA shooters that can claim that feat. So thanks to DICE for all the continued support and updates to the game. But Battlefield 3 is done now. DICE are concentrating on Battlefield 4 and whatever next gen products they're working on, and that's great. Now we've seen the specs of the PlayStation 4, we can safely expect native 1920 by 1080 resolutions and 60 frames per second on the new consoles, which is good for everyone. It means that games designers aren't limited by old hardware anymore, and it will make our games better in general. More power across the board, more scope and more potential. Hopefully it means that Battlefield 4 will be a much more even game across all three platforms and offer a similar experience for everyone rather than us just seeing the gaping void between the PS3, Xbox and PC that we see today. Pretty much every game nowadays is developed multi-platform, so with the new consoles closing the gap on the PC a bit, it'll only mean good things all around. Endgame on the PS3 has left me feeling a little bittersweet. Part of me is sad that there isn't any more BF3 content coming, but part of me is very happy that they're done with that now. They can turn the page and move on to something new and exciting. Here's to Battlefield 4.